Thank you.
Okay, we're back to our District 17 candidates. Third question. Clean water is crucial to the Florida economy that many people take for granted. Due to rising water levels and an aging dike system, thick green water carrying toxic algae flowed again from Lake Okeechobee this month in the coastal waters of both South Florida and the Gulf Coast. Coastal communities say previous discharges threaten tourism and health. Since the western part of Lake Okeechobee falls inside of District 17, how will you help resolve this critical water quality issue and aging dike system if elected? And what are your views on Florida offshore and Everglades drilling? This question first goes to Bill Akins.
First of all, the water issues, again, begin with the state legislature. They have let this go way too long, and they have got to get involved. Now, as your congressman, I can help push some federal dollars down here to help get this done, but it's got to start here. Your state legislature, they have been watching this stuff every year come down there, and they've done nothing. They've passed a few laws, but they ignore them. Wonder why? You've got to get them in line first, and then the federal government can come in and help. Drilling in Florida and offshore drilling. My question is, why would we want to do that? Now, if gasoline was 10 bucks a gallon and you had to wait in line for 2 hours to get a couple gallons, you'd be hollering, drill, baby, drill. But we don't need it. There's absolutely no reason to do it. Even with the technology, I spent 35 years in Texas. I've been around a lot of oil fields and I've worked in them. We don't need it. Technology is there to make it safer, but we still don't need it. And I cannot envision a time when Florida would ever need that. Thank you.
Well, let me tell you what the legislature has done in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, because of the leadership of the Senate President Joe Negron, as it relates to the guacamole that is coming out of Lake Okeechobee, we passed a $2 billion package bill that built a reservoir south of Lake Okeechobee, because the water naturally goes south, to hold this water so that it's not released. Unfortunately, an infrastructure change that is a $2 billion infrastructure change to build this reservoir south of the lake doesn't happen overnight. It takes time to construct these things. The feds just recently announced a $500 million improvement to build on the Herbert Hoover Dike. So that would allow, and that's $500 million, it was part of this overall deal with working with the feds and the state that we passed 2 years ago, that the legislature passed, to try to address this issue. Again, doing a $500 million infrastructure change to the dike to raise the dike up. So, because the real problem here is in a year like this, we're getting a lot of rain. So they have to release the water, or neighborhoods near and around Lake Okeechobee are going to be flooded. So if we raise the height of the dike, which was what was just approved, the $500 million, they'll be able to hold that water for longer. In conjunction with the reservoir that was passed 2 years ago, that our legislature passed, we should be able to hold a lot more water to be able to hold it in years that we have a lot of rain like this. So that's what the legislature has done. I will continue. I voted for that bill against the sugar industry, by the way. I voted for that bill. I've always supported pro-environment issues as it relates to offshore drilling. When I first ran for the state house, almost 10 years ago now, 8 years ago is when I got elected, the whole oil drill baby drill thing was the issue of the day, because the Speaker of the House wanted to allow drilling off Florida's coast within 3 miles of the coast. And I took a position before I got elected that I would not support drilling off the coast of Florida, and I've always had that position. I voted against the fracking bill that would allow fracking in the state of Florida, because I don't think that we should be fracking in the state of Florida with the way that our aquifer is and the way that our sand is and the permutation of that. I voted against fracking, and so I will always support those environmental issues. Thank you.
Well, fracking is taking place in the state of Florida, and we didn't pass a bill to regulate it. So look, here's the fun fact. My very first advocacy effort while I was in high school, my daughter doesn't know this, she's about to learn too, was a fundraising campaign to raise money to preserve Crystal River for our manatee population that was dwindling. And I remember because we raised about $3,000 and I had a guy come in with a parrot, and he rode 25 miles on a bicycle with a parrot on his shoulder. It made for a very stained shoulder. But after that same concern that I had about environmental issues in Florida have carried me through. I wrote 2 theses. One of them was in college, which was about the apple snail and its verge of extinction because of what we were doing to Lake Okeechobee in disturbing the natural ebb and flow of water and essentially ruining their population and therefore ruining the Everglades kite population as well. My second one was in law school when I took a course on wetlands law and environmental law, and guess what it was? It was a legal thesis on why we should open up Midnight Pass and let it flow. That was my position. So look, these are issues that have been very near and dear to me since my adolescence. And here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that it's a very complicated problem. It's a complicated problem because we have ruined our wetlands. We let the water flow into Lake Okeechobee and we can build a dike 6 feet taller, but guess what's going to happen? We're still going to have algae because we have too many phosphates. Why do we have too many phosphates? Because upstream we don't have enough wetlands. So when you release whatever's out there, it's going to be green and murky, and it's going to ruin everything downstream. And by the way, one more comment. What happened in West Miami, and the encroachment into the East Everglades was a crime. I aim to stop that kind of activity.
Back to our Board of County Commission candidates. Question: this month, a previous county commissioner wrote a piece in the local paper applauding the current Board of County Commissioners by not proposing a millage rate increase or a new public service tax on our residents. With property values back to almost historic highs and the explosion of growth, why should any tax increase be considered? Also, how would you grade the current fiscal stewardship of our county leaders? Are services and public assets being maintained or improved? Should larger expenditure projects be put on a ballot as our charter intends? Or is it okay to break these projects into smaller projects so they fall beneath the $22 million threshold without public input? This question first goes to Mike Cosentino.
I'm going to quit kidding myself and do a little bit of reading to you guys. Prepared these over the weekend. I can start out a little bit. Mrs. Robinson consistently voted against giving away public lands like it, including Beach Road. I got a little bit of a soft spot for her in my heart. Obviously, keeping the millage rates the same, that's good, but it ignores the fact that taxes were raised because property values went up. Those are both small potatoes issues. The elephant in the room is the comprehensive plan changes that shift the cost of infrastructure away from the new developments and onto the existing taxpayers. And that's completely ignored. So we talk about a little bitty thing, pat ourselves on the back, and ignore the elephant in the room. With respect to public assets being maintained, like Shell Road on Siesta Key in the 70s, Beach Road was intentionally neglected and allowed to fall into a state of disrepair to set up its giveaway to adjacent landowners. Taylor Engineering did a report in 2013, said they could permanently fix the road. You can see a picture of it for $2 million, where they could just keep patching it and have no public access for $6 million. County shows us $6 million. Obviously, our county commission regularly ignores its charter, the comprehensive plan, but most importantly, the will of the people. Again, the most important thing that we can do as citizens is pay better attention and make better selections. And we count on you for that. Thank you for your time.
Rudy Giuliani.
About a month ago, I actually met with the fire chief for Sarasota County. He gave me a frightening statistic. He said, with the current growth that we have right now, we are 10 years behind where we should be for manpower and equipment for emergency services. You should be frightened by that because the response time now, if you're having a cardiac arrest, instead of being 10 to 15 minutes, gets pushed back to 30, 35 minutes, and it's a life and death decision. We need to make sure that we have accountability. I understand the tax question, but we have to make sure that the impact fees that we're charging to new construction pay for infrastructure and pay for the management and use in our community. Again, this goes to all of our lives being at stake by these decisions. As far as the breaking up of the $22 million and under going in front of the public, I think any expenditure should be brought to the public for discussion. It's a sin when we go in front of the commission and we get dismissed. It's our right. These people represent us. I want to represent us. And I think every single person should have a voice with our commission on how we spend our tax dollars. Thank you.
Especially in Biggs.
Well, before raising taxes, we should look at the budget and find improvements there. We're already giving sweetheart deals to these developers, we're selling surplus lands. We don't need to raise taxes on us, we need to raise impact fees on developers and hold them accountable to the roads and new infrastructure they require for these developments. The Director of Public Works, Spencer Anderson, recently reported to our Board of County Commissioners that there's a 20% reduction in the efficacy of every single dollar going towards infrastructure right now due to inflation and increase in the ADA, American Disability Act, requirements. So we are getting less for our money, and we are, as a population, subsidizing those developers. That is wrong. We don't need to pay more in taxes. They need to pay their fair share. This is such a long question. Public services, they're on the chopping block. Our public libraries, our SCAT system, those are on the budgetary chopping block just this last budget season. We, again, should not be paying the price through our public services that developers are placing on us. That is wrong. They need to be held accountable to the infrastructure that they need, and breaking up the $22 million requirement to go to ballot. There's already too much gray area. There's already not enough accountability. I don't believe we should be segmenting big budget projects to sneak it by without us as a population having a say. And $65 million, we should have a say. We deserve a say, and we rightfully have a say. And we need to continue that.
Lourdes Ramirez.
If I promise to grade the county commission, I'll give it a D. One of the problems we're having is the county has been filling the gap. We've had a budget deficit since the recession. And even though we're growing as a community, it seems like we continue having budget deficits. And part of that is because we're subsidizing new development. And the county's doing recklessly with spending money. I mean, do we really have to continue subsidizing that a rolling facility that's not really bringing in any money for our community? And I think that has to be cut. So I think there's a lot of fat in the budget that needs to be cut back without having to raise taxes. And I'm concerned about the fact that the county has been dipping into the economic uncertainty reserves to cover the gap in their deficit for the past 10 years. It had $65 million in it before, and now it has about $5 million. So if we have another downturn, we're going to be in a lot of hurt. Now, there's other reserves that can't touch, like the natural disaster reserves. And you'll hear them, oh, we have reserves, but it's not reserves for our economy. So I'm really concerned that the county is wasting money. I don't think we have to raise taxes, but I really think they have to start cutting the fat, especially for these pet projects.
And Alexandra Coe.
As far as fiscal responsibility, I would probably give our county commission a D as well. They remind me of a teenager with too much allowance. They're always broke and they're always spending money on the wrong things. I think that's what our county is doing. Their priorities are in other places. Nathan Benderson Park is listed as a priority for the county. I think there's a lot of other things that should be a priority. Services and public assets, they're selling off our public lands to the lowest bidder. Not to the highest bidder, but to the lowest bidder. And that's wrong. Those are our assets. At the same time, they're jeopardizing our ecology. Our ecology is our economy in Sarasota County. And every piece of land is just something for somebody to put cookie cutter subdivisions on. And that needs to stop. Those are our assets. And those things have a rich potential to be economic engines for us. You know, birding, all these other ecotourism things. Agriculture, as Mr. Stubbe has talked about, is the second largest economic engine for the state of Florida. We need to understand that in Sarasota and understand the value of our rural landscapes and preserve those. As far as breaking down those projects, we've been doing that for a long time, and I don't know how we demand that it be handled differently, but it should be. Maybe we need to elect people to the charter review that will bring things before the commission to improve our constitution, the charter, and not dismantle it like is happening right now. Thank you.
Okay, we are winding down. This is back to our candidates for District 17, and this is the shortest question. What makes you the best candidate? And this will be their 2-minute closing statement. And this goes to Greg Stubbe.
We only get 2 minutes, so I just want to thank all of you for being here today and taking your personal time to come and listen to us. You can find more information about my campaign at www.electgregstubbe.com. We've got flyers in the back, signs in the back. I want to thank my wife for putting up with me and coming to all these events. My 7-year-old son, who would much rather be doing a lot of other things right now than sitting here listening to me. And I'm the only candidate in this race with a background in agriculture, which is a huge part of this district. I've represented Sarasota County for 8 years. I've served in the military and the Army. I served in Operation Iraqi Freedom. And if you're a conservative Republican, then I'm your guy. All you have to do is get information on our website. Thank you guys for coming here tonight. I'd be honored to have your support. August 28th is the Republican primary. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. This event is just fantastic, if for no other reason, but the number of people and the interest that it generates. So thank you for being here, and thank you for making it yet another highlight in this campaign cycle. Look, why am I the best candidate to represent us in Washington, D.C.? Because I'm the one who has the biggest breadth of knowledge and the widest and broadest amount of experience behind it. I'm the only one who's taken care of patients and have seen the suffering that ensues when federal policy goes horribly bad. And by the way, I've also seen it when state policy goes horribly bad. I'm the only one who's made the effort to understand the issues better by getting another education, which in this case happened to be a law degree, so I could understand our legal system and understand how these things affect us. I'm the only one who's written a book on our Constitution. I'm probably the biggest expert of the Constitution of anybody in this panel. I am the only one who's written on healthcare policy recurrently. And here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that I want to go to Washington, D.C. because I love this country. I love this community. I'm intensely concerned about what's happening to us moving forward. And I'm going there with the honest, bona fide, good faith intent of solving problems, of addressing the issues of the day, and making sure that they get addressed properly. I may come up to a different conclusion than somebody else will, but the bottom line is, if you send me to Congress, you can rest assured that at least on our seat, the seat that's representing our district, our community, you're going to have somebody who has the honest, good faith effort of trying to solve the problem and make our situation in our country better. God bless you all. God bless our great country.
Bill Akins.
First, I'd like to thank you all for being here. And why am I the best candidate? I'm not a lawyer with lots of experience. I'm not going to go up there and continue to gunk everything up like lawyers do. And let me tell you something. If anybody tells you that they have all the answers, don't trust them, because they don't. If you want to see who's going to represent you, go to the FEC website. Look where the money comes from. The money is who's going to get represented. Now, I made a statement earlier, I don't take money from outside the district. I got to correct myself. My wife Ann sent me $100 from Virginia. But I'm here to represent you and nobody but you in America, and not the special interest. And I too have fought 4 years in Vietnam, and I'll continue to fight for you. And again, if anyone tells you they've got all the answers, don't believe it, because they don't. Send me August 28th. God bless all of you, and God bless America.
Okay, to our Board of County Commission, last question. What makes you the best candidate? This will be your 2-minute closing statement, and this goes to Ruta Julinari.
Well, thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak to you tonight and for you to get to know us a little bit. The reason why I think I'm the best candidate is a couple of reasons, actually. One is my fiscal responsibility. I've owned a company 14 years. I've worked in finance for the previous 10 years. So I know how to balance a budget and be economically sound. Combine that with my 501 nonprofit work, I get to know the community, and I love the community, and I work with the community free of charge. It's as a volunteer for most of the things that I had mentioned. And the reason also is because I'm going to be representing you. I'm not representing special interests. I'm running a grassroots campaign. My average campaign donations are $20.18. And I'm proud of that, because that means I have a vested interest from all of you believing in me, that I will represent you. I'll fight for this environment to make sure that we protect Florida. As many of the other candidates mentioned, it's crucial, our agriculture and our environment to sustainability of our county, and to make sure that we have good infrastructure and we have somebody who's going to answer again to you, not to special interest or anyone else. I'm asking for your vote November 6th. My website is voteforruta.com. You all have handouts. And thank you again for taking the time and being interested enough to be here to listen to us tonight, because it actually means you care as much as we do. Thank you.
Wesley Ann Biggs.
So I'm a native Floridian, I'm a small business owner, but most of all, I am a concerned citizen, just like everyone in this room. To me, an effective elected official has the ABCs. They're attentive, they're bold, and they're collaborative, and I embody all of those. Attentive. I've been at this point at hundreds of events, and I've not seen one county commissioner at any of them. Nonpartisan, Republican, Democratic events, across the spectrum, no matter where I'm at, I've not once. Okay, bold. We need people that are moving past stagnation. We have had for decades now stagnation on our county commission. We need new perspectives, fresh ideas, someone that's not afraid to see what, we don't live in a vacuum, right? Counties across the country are tackling the exact problems we are, right? So a quick Google, you know, would help in a lot of cases. And collaborative. I taught high school students at Sarasota Military Academy, Sarasota High, Booker, and Riverview High School how to work together despite their differences. We need that now more than ever. We are setting a poor example for this next generation if we cannot come together and solve our community issues as a community. We cannot expect DC to get better if we do not cultivate that sense of community right here at home. So my name is Wesley Ann Beggs. I'm running to represent citizens of this county that value environmental protection, affordable housing, and sustainable development. Thank you all so much for coming out. It means the world. Thank you.
Lourdes Ramirez.
I'm going to set aside my stump speech, because something happened 2 weeks ago that really disturbed me. It actually shows how the county commission is not representing us. You know we have a charter, and for the first time in 10 years, we have 3 initiatives in the November ballot done by citizens. And so the county commission started to think about that. I mean, it's been 10 years. And the county commission, there's actually 4 ways to change a charter. 3 of those ways is bureaucrats sitting in their air-conditioned rooms on their comfy chairs, tailing staff to make the decision, or at least to write up the language to change propose change to the charter. The last one is by citizen initiative. They have to hire a lawyer, raise funds, collect petitions, and that's about 15,000 petitions that they have to collect, which is about 5%. And then they have to go raise funds to campaign to get you to vote for their petition. So the county commission apparently thought that was too easy, and are now talking about changing that. They want to change it from 5% to 10%. So now instead of 15,000 signatures, they'll have to get 30,000 signatures. And you have to do it in 18 months. So I am furious. I mean, as a county commissioner, I would have stood up and said, no, we can't put restrictions on citizens. It wasn't right. It steps on our ability to make change or propose change on the county commission. And I was appalled that the county commission even thought to change the charter, or at least propose the charter for a change, to restrict us. And yes, they're Republicans and we shouldn't add more regulations, but somehow they have no problem adding regulations to citizens. So I believe I'll be the best candidate because I would have stood up for you and the county commission. Thank you.
Alexandra Coe.
Well, development is the most pressing issue that we have in this county, and for 15 years I have been involved with development issues. I know the players and I know the problems. Developing swampland is tricky. Overdeveloping it is dangerous. I'm the only candidate that understands environmental systems and will be able to protect what ecosystem we have left. I also have consultancy status at the United Nations. I've been doing that for 10 years. Through that network, I have access to the brightest minds and greatest ideas in urban development, in rural protection, and a variety of other sustainable development practices. That's a huge asset to our community. And I am already doing things. I'm involved with trying to find a solution for the poor navigation in our bay and the shifting sands. I am gathering a network of people with expertise in environmental systems for us to revisit our sensitive land policy in Sarasota County. So I'm always looking for ways to get things done. I love to be a problem solver. I love when somebody comes to me and says, boy, I have this really bad problem with the city or with the county, and I love to get in there and straighten it out. And that's what I think we need, and I think that's what makes me the best candidate, is I'm tenacious about making government work for us. So you can find out more about me at alexandraco.com. You can get one of my lovely fans so that you can keep cool in our hot August days that are approaching us. And as far as my background, I'm a scientist, I'm an anthropologist, and I also have been involved with this community in so many different levels that I have a very broad vision of what we need for the future of Sarasota. And I'm also willing to reach out and communicate with a lot of different groups. I respect other people's opinions, and I think we need someone who's going to be in office that's going to work for the future of our county.
And last but not least, Mike Costantino.
I'm going to try to talk really fast to you folks on this because I got a lot of stuff I want to cover. First of all, I'd like to thank Lourdes for what she just said with respect to the charter amendments. My team and I have worked our butts off, and we have got 30,000 petitions in the last 18 months to get 2 charter amendments on the ballot. One keeps beach road and public ownership and control like it has been for 100 years. The other protects every park, preserve, beach, and water access in all of Sarasota County. I envision making the charter amendment process easier to involve us rather than harder to kick us out of the process. I'm going to take a couple minutes and talk about Lourdes. Former head of the Sarasota County Republican Party, Bob Waxter, actually got a credit card, made donations to Democrats in Lourdes' name, and then called the newspaper and told them about it. They smeared her to death when she ran against Al Mayo last time. Mr. Wachter also gerrymandered, that's why you're in the district. He came down here around Al's house just to get him to be able to run against Lourdes. I've worked with her on siesta key issues for 10 years. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. Leslie Beggs is my Democratic opponent in District 4, and I made a hell of a bad mistake of kind of ignoring her a few months ago. She has worked her butt off, And quite frankly, I don't even know if I can catch her. She's so far ahead of me at this point. And I'm not really disturbed by that because her hard work, her intelligence, I mean, she's just phenomenal. What we need to do is we need to avoid the Christians. And Ruta is spectacular, and so is Alexander. They are both District 2. The other 3 of us are District 4. The only thing you really need to do is inform yourselves, not vote for Christian Ziegler, and not vote for Al Mayo. Outside of that, make your choice and you'll be in good shape.